And we're live.
Is that? Oh, okay, good. That is what this is. This shouldn't be episode 21, by the way, because technically we still did an episode 21. This is
No,
just
we
it was
didn't.
just
This
removed.
this is still gonna be 21.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because it's literally gonna be the exact same thing. We're just finishing the conversation.
All right. Well, in case because we know the last video got taken down. Basically what happened was he was playing the trailer in the background of the video.
Copyright. Even though there was
Uh,
no sound.
yeah. So, all right. Yeah, and it was weird because it got taken down at a weird time. I can't remember exactly what we were thinking about. Oh, I think we were thinking about we were talking about like guns or something, and then we also started talking about how I looked at the Timcast live stream and it was just dead air.
Yeah.
Like it was a by the way, just in case you were wondering, it was a credible threat is what they said is what I found out, but I got no more detail than that.
Because we're talking about Tim Pool.
Well, I don't think that's why it was a credible threat. But
We were
well,
a
no,
threat.
no, we weren't a threat. The dead air at Tim Pool's live stream was because there was a credible threat to their studio.
Oh.
Was
Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
found out.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I got some more things that I written down from this week that I want to talk about.
Yay.
Um, and one thing was I was supposed to be mentioned last week, but it doesn't matter because we didn't mention it on the air anyway. So the Libertarian National Convention was a few weeks ago, and I wanted to talk about it on the podcast,
I
but
just
we didn't have a chance.
realized. Look at my Discord icon.
Yeah, it's not you.
It's
It's a
not
little,
me anymore.
it's a little minor.
It's Mila.
Yeah, so my thing looks super out of place.
Um. Let's see if we can fix that.
Yeah, see what you can do. Uh, but essentially, the Mises Caucus like took over the entire National Libertarian Party convention,
What the?
and everyone's super butthurt about that. Well, except for the Mises Caucus because they won, and all the people that voted for them.
Is it not gonna? Oh, edit profile. I'm probably. Oh yeah, because I have streamer mode enabled.
There you go. No, it's fine. We can take our time. This is okay. Speaking of
User
which,
profile.
I should try to post this on the
My account.
post this on the
Oh yeah, so
Instagram.
streamer mode won't actually let me edit
Well,
stuff.
oh yeah, that's right. Interesting. Well, it'll be
Hold
that.
on.
It's a little animation for now.
Hold on. We got it. You can keep talking while I get this figured out.
Well, that's all I had to say, really, I guess, about that. My next item on the agenda was something. Oh, yeah. Uh, this past week, an individual, which was somewhat heavily armed, went to the house of Justice Brett Kavanaugh to
Hmm.
try to assassinate them, but then bitched out and turned himself in. So that was obviously like a big issue for a day. It's a big issue for a day. But
Only
I'm
a
actually
day.
not confident that it should have been a bigger issue than it was because I'm just like I was so like how often do you think someone goes to the house of a person to try to assassinate them and then leaves because they realize that there's a guard outside? Because I feel like that probably actually happens a lot. But this guy happened to have just turned himself in. But I feel like the I went to someone's house to assassinate them, then I chickened out at the last moment. That probably happens all the time. Like,
Is
there's
it
no way it
gonna?
doesn't.
Is it not gonna update my icon? I don't think it's gonna update my icon. Let's see.
Well, let's see. What do you got? No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not
Uh,
updating it.
that's unfortunate.
What if I restarted Discord?
Oof. Well, the stream would be down, but you know that's fine if you want to take a couple moments.
If I
How come I can't link things on my Instagram? Like, seriously.
I don't know.
Like,
Oh,
sometimes there's a thing there for me to link things, and sometimes there's not.
okay.
It like makes me angry.
Wow. Okay, it didn't even update my thing.
It didn't.
No,
Interesting.
this is interesting. I'm
Well,
wondering why.
that's really unfortunate.
I know. Well, anyway, we will continue on and play Hollow Knight. Oh, I did not mean to just flash my Steam account there.
You need me to blur it out, or was it like not bad?
I doubt it was anything.
All right, I'll
That's
blur
also
it out.
another game people should play.
Hollow Knight.
Well, not only Hollow Knight, but also Soma.
Yeah. And the last couple things on my little checklist before we get into the movie. Uh, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Good
Mm-hmm.
movie, by the way.
Good movie.
Uh,
We're full of
so
recommendations.
there was a big controversy over drag shows that children were attending over the past week. Yeah, it was nothing like doxing. You didn't dox yourself. Uh, so I don't know. Did you hear anything about that? I know you're kind of out of the loop on this sort of thing.
No?
So
And
essentially, there are like drag shows that have children's nights, and there's two folds to this like thing. Like first of all, if drag shows are appropriate for kids to attend at all,
well, yeah.
but then there was also the controversy of there were like some specific venues that were like gay bars that had like risque posters on the wall and sort of things that children were at, and people were like, even if drag shows like on principle aren't necessarily bad for kids, they shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And like the thing was, the very specific thing was there was a picture of a drag show being hosted at a gay bar, um, and the posters on the wall were, they said, the first one said it's not going to lick itself, yeah, and I licked it so it's mine. So those were the posters at the wall at a drag show for children.
I don't think that that's that horrible. That's more funny than anything.
Yeah, I think it's funny, but it also like, do you think that that's an environment that children should be at? Is the question.
Maybe not, but like.
And then,
But
do you think children could attend drag shows in general, and like that be
yes, I
totally
think that they
appropriate,
could. I think that they could as long as it's an appropriate
like in
kind
an
of show.
appropriate manner? Like, there's no problem with just a
I
children
mean,
watching someone dance while
yeah,
cross dressing.
yeah. I don't think. Well, it'd be more of like a performance. It'd be not like a sexual or enticing dance, but
But then aren't a lot of drag shows sexual in nature? Like they do like basically stripper dancing.
yeah.
So there's
Which
that. Like children shouldn't be at that, but like on principle, just a children watching someone
because a
perform
drag
in
show
drag.
doesn't have to be a sexual dance.
No, not. I don't think by definition it does either.
Yeah, like if they want, some drag shows are meant for adults, and you can have a child-friendly drag show. But if it's not going to be a child-friendly drag show, then and it's like just as bad as any stripper or bar would be, then no, children should not be allowed in there.
Yeah, which I
And
think was I think that was like the biggest problem was we saw these like a lot of them are like you saw children like putting money in like the thongs on men, like, you know what I mean, like, and it was like, okay, like this is obviously like a strip show that children are at, but it's okay because they're in drag.
hmm
Yeah, so I think that was the real thing. And then another thing in the same vein, there's a show coming out that's like a beauty pageant for transgender kids. I don't remember what it's called. Trans kid show. Let me look it up. But
Hmm.
it's basically just a beauty pageant. What it is what I like gained from it. Like, beauty pageants that like usually it's like little girls in dresses and they do their talent and their dress or whatever.
Yeah,
But like, isn't it weird? Like, I think pretty much at this point we've all agreed that beauty pageants are kind of weird.
I would agree that they're weird. But then again, we're also two straight guys who are not into the beauty like industry at all, and we really don't give a shit.
Yeah, but like it's kind of like weird that like there are grown adults
Who care?
who watch like little girls dressing up and performing on stage. Like, I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think it's like if you do watch it, you're creepy or like you are a creep. But I think first of all, a lot of it tends to like be abusive for some children. Like, like parents force their kids into that sort of thing, and kids like the little girls don't really necessarily know what they're doing. But it's also just kind of weird for them to. It's like weird for the beauty contest to be for little children in the first place. And like we've all kind of agreed that it's kind of weird in society these days, but they're doing a show on it about trans kids, but it's okay because they're trans. I don't think that's right. I feel like we should, like, it's always creepy to watch like
Hmm.
children perform on stage like that.
Yeah.
Like, child performance has always been kind of an abusive thing, and I don't think this is any different, honestly. And I should send you these things before we talk about them because you just have no idea about any of this stuff.
I'll avoid. Yeah.
There was one more thing, and this was just a thought I had recently. But I was thinking, I was looking around, and I was like, there's a lot of weird things that are coming into style, you know? Uh, and it kind of plays into a theory I have. But the three things that I wrote down were Daisy Dukes. You know what Daisy Dukes are?
No.
Like really high cut jean shorts that women wear.
Oh. Yeah. So of course I want to know what those were.
Mullets and mustaches.
Oh yeah. I've heard mullets definitely are making a return.
Oh yeah, and so are mustaches, like for sure.
Dude, hell yeah. Dad mustaches
Yeah, and I
are
think
so
like,
in.
well, right, because I think Morgan Wallen just like single-handedly brought back the mullet, maybe with the help of Joe Exotic, but it
Hmm.
is kind of like a weird thing. Uh, but it, yeah, sorry. uh, it kind of plays into my theory about fashion in general, and my theory is that mainly rich people pay to look like clean poor people, and I think the most obvious example is blue jeans. Like denim is kind of like it's like a cotton kind of a rugged work material, and then it became like a fashion thing in like I don't know even when, like the 60s, the 70s.
Hmm.
But then also you think about things like leather jackets, denim jackets. Like nowadays those are like super fashionable, but they used to be like work things. Leather boots, like a lot of rich people pay for leather boots, even though like that they start off as work boots. And now I think that's coming into like things like hillbilly things, like mullets, mustaches, Daisy Dukes. Those
Yeah.
are very like redneck things, but like they're coming into style with like the younger people because they watch TV shows where the main characters are just clean poor people, and they're like, that's cool, that's a good style. That's my fashion theory, and those are the three things I'm noticing: Daisy Dukes, mullets, and mustaches are all coming back.
Okay. I mean, I don't care about Daisy Dukes. Mullets I can see as a viable fashion statement, though.
Well, it's fun. Like even the way my hair is now, if like I brush it behind my ears, it just looks like I have a mullet. Anyway,
You should get a mullet.
you think I should shave this? Like, you think so?
Yeah, dude, you
I,
should. You could
I
rock a
think
mullet.
I don't want a mullet though, because like the least favorite, like I hate that you can see like the back of my hair from the front. Like I think my hair is a fine length the way it is now, except for you can see the back of it when like you're looking right at me.
It's like we're teasing the audience, like we're talking about how you look,
I
kind
know,
of, but
and it's
they
funny.
will never see
I
it.
can tie it in like a small ponytail, which I think actually looks good from the front. But as soon as you see it from the side, you realize I'm a man with a ponytail, and it's like not a good look. So I think my only option is the opposite of a mullet. is my only option here. Just shave.
Tie it forwards.
Yeah. Well, no, a mullet is short in the front, long in the back, usually shaved on the sides. Is how people are doing it now.
Yeah.
So it's very specific. But yeah, it's everything swept back, and I think everything like swept forward, cut the back of my hair short.
Okay.
It's the worst. Now you actually have a mullet. You have a mullet and a really thick mustache, which is how you look.
I do not have a mullet,
Okay.
and I do not have a mustache.
All right. Whatever. I was just playing. I was making fun.
What do you mean?
Whatever you say, dude.
What do you mean I have a mullet?
Well, no, you said you're teasing the audience by describing how you look.
Oh, okay.
You always wear tuxedos around. You
Oh
actually
yeah,
have
I do. I don't
actually-
have hair. Like, remember, I'm all skeleton.
Yes, of course.
I'm
you
just a
actually,
skeleton.
You're literally a skeleton. Like that
My
picture
my
of you.
top hat is like my hair.
What that drawing gets like inaccurate about you though, is you're black. Like you're not like white like that skeleton. You're a black skeleton.
That's blackface.
It's the opposite actually. It's the opposite because you're black, but your skeleton picture is white. So you're white facing
No,
is what
but
you're doing.
no, because I am the skeleton.
Yeah, but you're like the black version of that skeleton. That skeleton's a drawing.
No, it's not.
This is a photograph of you.
What do you mean? I am a skeleton.
Like, aren't we all skeletons though?
My skeleton doesn't have skin.
When you get down to it, is your brain inside of you, or are you the brain and everything else like on your body is like wrapped around you?
I don't have a brain.
Why can't skeletons have brains?
Because they're just bone. It's all bones about it.
It could be inside the skull.
It's all bones about it.
So you're saying you're your bones,
Yes.
and if you had a brain, it would be inside of you, not.
What defines me is where I am and the occupace that I am, or the location I'm currently occupying.
Is that what defines you, really?
Yes, that's what defines me as
Because
my person.
in my head, like, are you? Here's what I'm asking though. Like, do you think that you, Jay, are the brain inside of your body, or are you your body and your brain is like is like inside you? Is your
No.
brain inside you, or are you the brain, and everything else about you is wrapped around you?
You know, the game Soma that I accidentally flashed earlier does a really good job going in depth on what it means to be person and what self-identity it comes down to.
You know, I want to
Go
see a
play
game
it.
I want to see an AI game that comes to the conclusion that no, robots are not people. That's like not a thing. It never happens. Nobody ever has the balls to say robots aren't people.
Nier Automata does. Nier Automata definitely does.
Do they? Because the robots in Nier Automata decide, like, they have
Okay,
culture.
that's fair. Because, I mean... So, when Nier Automata, it humanizes the robots, but it also keeps them, like, very different from them. Like, the androids especially are very far removed from being human,
Yeah,
and they're personified...
The robots in Nier Automata are otherized. You're right, they're otherized, but they're not less than humans, they're different than humans, and that's not what I mean. I mean, I want someone to say, listen, robots are less than human, alright? There needs to be a movie that comes out and says it, that says, listen, guys,
Terminator?
you guys are making all these AI movies where, even in, like, where the robots are bad guys, like AI, like WALL-E or 2001: A Space Odyssey, the two very similar movies.
Terminator.
Nah. Dude, because the Terminator is, like, he becomes a person.
Yeah.
He develops. I want a movie with it like your iPhone is the robot in the movie. It means nothing. All right, and any meaning from a robot is derived from the way the person feels about the robot, rather than the robot itself. The only movie that I can think possibly does this is Big Hero 6. Funnily enough.
Hmm.
Funnily enough, because Baymax is always just doing what he's programmed to do. All right,
I
that's it.
just.
But and Big Hero 6, Baymax only has value because of what Hero thinks he has value. So that I want more movies, even though I didn't think Big Hero 6 was a good movie. But Big Hero 6 is the only movie I can think of. It's a Disney movie, and it's so deep that it can say, listen, this robot's not a person, and the reason that the audience will sympathize with the robot is because the main character sympathizes with the robot.
Hmm.
It's
I think Ultron makes them very much villainized.
no, but even Ultron, like, because Ultron develops personhood, like, and at remember at the end of Age of
I would
Ultron,
say
at the end of Age of Ultron, at the
he
end of Age
comes
of
to
Ultron, villain
understand.
Vision comes to life at the end of Age of Ultron. So even at that movie, the point is Vision's a person.
I
And
think
would
that
you
they
really
try to
argue that
make.
in the MCU, Vision isn't a person?
I I wouldn't say he's a person because he's one of his character attributes is like always his doubts about being a person. Like that's one of his like character
Okay, but
flaws. I want to
if
say.
every time that I stood up awake wondering if I was an NPC, like made me less of a person, then I'd like be less than Vision by now.
WandaVision definitely drives Vision into being a person. But I don't. I want to say the rest of the MCU does.
Well, WandaVision's canon, so it doesn't matter.
That's unfortunately it is.
I know.
It's so sad.
It is really sad. That it's really unfortunate that only Disney movie Big Hero 6 is philosophically minded enough to realize that robots aren't people.
You know, it's really sad that Disney got a hold of Star Wars and the MCU, and now they're slowly turning into like like a comic book series where there's just so much going on. It's like cluttered
If
film
I was
filled
Elon
and
Musk,
makes
I
no
would buy
sense.
Disney, even though I imagine that you can't really buy all of Disney. If I was the wealthiest man in the world, I would buy Disney for all of my money, and then I would make them say that. Okay, I would make them like write like a six paragraph essay, like that's just a very well. This would take a team of people to write the 6 paragraph essay, but it's got to be readable. You know what I mean? So 6 paragraph essay that explains. All it would do is retcon Star Wars, and it wouldn't get rid of all of it because I would say, listen, you can't really get rid of all of this. We spent a lot of money on this, but it would say, first things first, Rey's lightsaber is actually purple. Because the colors of the lightsabers actually mean something in the books, and there's no reason for her to have a yellow lightsaber, and a purple lightsaber actually makes sense for her character. But second of all, it would say like I don't know. It would say like everything that happens in Kenobi is only kind of what actually happened.
Oh yeah, I had a friend, and he's a Star Wars fanatic, where
Mm-hmm.
he will eat up and enjoy like any Star Wars content casually. And
Right?
I warned him not to watch Kenobi, but he said he was going to do it anyway. And I have yet to hear back on how it is in his perspective.
He's
Because
thinking. He's thinking a lot.
I have only heard like, oh my god, every time when I think it just can't get worse, it gets worse.
I stopped watching after episode 3. I don't even know how many episodes there are out there.
Of Kenobi.
Yeah,
Oh, so you
5.
also gave up on Kenobi, not just
I'll.
Halo.
I gave up on WandaVision too. I didn't finish that one. I
Oh,
never even started Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I watched
You know what I
Falcon the
haven't
Winter
given up on? You
Soldier.
know what I haven't given up on? My Hero Academia. Because the Japanese still know how to make good TV shows.
I think Falcon Winter Soldier was me giving up on the MCU. So and I didn't see Loki or Shang Chi.
Oh, Loki's actually good though.
I
Like, it's
don't.
not
No,
great.
it's not.
You don't think so?
No. See, why didn't they expand on the adventures of Crocodile Loki?
I don't know.
Alligator Loki. I want to see the adventures of Alligator Loki. That would be way more interesting than fucking whatever the shit we got was.
I disagree actually. Uh, the, yeah, the MCU is
Ironically.
just really running out of material. I did watch all of Moon Knight. Actually, no, that was a lie. I didn't. I watched the first two and the last one episode. I don't know why I said I watched all of it. I
If you
watched the
want.
first two and the last one episode, and honestly, even though I saw nothing of what happened in the middle of it, pretty good show.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think. Are we just going to rant about Disney and the MCU every single podcast?
It's gonna happen. Yeah, because they keep doing worse. Like just when they don't. By the way, by the way, Lightyear, there's a huge controversy. It's not being sold in 14 countries because there's a lesbian couple in it. The new Pixar movie, which I don't know, good for Saudi Arabia, standing
um,
up for good Islamic values.
Giving a little shout out about that. DJ Peach Cobbler, really good YouTuber. Um, he recently released like an episode on his channel where he just did some like DJ Peach Cobbler news,
Hmm.
and he was joking that Disney bought the Christian religion and retconned it, and now Jesus was gay in every country except China.
Oh, that's so funny.
And it was like, this is.
I don't
I
know where
love
all
it.
this Jesus is gay thing came from because there's like because that's like a modern theory, but like the old theory that came out in like 100 BC is that Jesus was actually married to Mary Magdalene, because there's like the Gospel of Mary, which is like a non-canonic gospel
Yeah.
that because it can't be really confirmed, um, but it's sort of like the Gospel of Thomas in a way, and the
Mhm.
Gospel of Judith. Like there are lots of gospels that really can't be verified that were written, but like they were written so close that it kind of gives like at least what it gives is an old clue about what like the early Christianity might have been like. So it's kind of interesting. As a practicing non-Christian, I highly recommend you pick up some of these, like Gospel of Mary. But the Gospel of Mary like literally says, "Oh no, Mary Magdalene and Jesus, husband and wife," or at the very least, like modern day girlfriend boyfriend sort of situation.
Hmm.
So like I don't know where all this just Jesus is gay thing came from because we still haven't like solved that first mystery.
Yeah, like there's still the mystery that Mary Magdalene had Jesus' child.
I don't I feel like that one's not true. You think
Hmm.
that's true? Are
I
you
don't
saying you
think
think
it
that's true?
is.
No.
I don't
Oh,
think
you
it
you
is.
saying you watched the Da Vinci Code recently?
No, I have not.
What even was the Da Vinci Code?
I don't know.
I I watched the movie. I still don't get it. It had something to do with Mary Magdalene and Jesus. But
Let's look
like,
this up.
what even was the Da Vinci Code?
I don't know. A murder in Paris. A cryptic clues in some Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting leads to the discovery of religion mystery.
Yeah, it's exactly what it says it was. Yeah, which is crazy because the whole premise is saying that the Last Supper painting has Mary Magdalene in it, which isn't true. It has the Apostle John, and he's always painted just to look like a girl. If you ever look at ancient paintings, like Peter, really old, super rugged, but John's just always like straight up a girl.
Should we get started on the
Yeah. How'd you like the movie?
I love the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once because dude, we're at like half an hour in and we've just been rambling on.
Okay, what was your favorite part about the movie? Read some of your notes. Let's see what's up.
Let me find my notes. Okay. I think. Let me just read through some of them. My favorite part was the support of fanny packs as a fashion statement.
Dude, speaking of fashion statements coming back, fanny packs.
We have gone full circle, people.
Holy crap. This movie did all. By the way, this movie, crazy, alright? Because, let me tell you, the husband in this movie, always, like, super fashionable, right? Everything he did.
Yes.
In one scene, the fanny pack. In the other scene, classic tuxedo, nice pair of glasses. He's smoking because it's still cool in China. Dude, this guy, right? Okay,
He is
but
the
the daughter in
ultimate
this
dad.
movie, he's a the daughter in this movie, complete opposite. Looked like a mess the entire movie.
Well, I mean, to be fair, she was a mess
She
this
was that was
entire
the point
movie.
of the movie, but and this dad just had everything put together, man. What a guy.
What a Chad.
I know.
I called him like Chad Dad at times whenever he went Super Saiyan.
He was cool. He was so cool. Yeah, there was Chad Dad, and there was Sad Dad, and there was uh the last guy, the one of the tuxedo dad.
In
I can't remember a D word.
um the opening shot of where you're like in the mirror getting a view of their lives, but then it's like it kind of cuts away from like this happy scene into chaos of like the of her just looking over all the tax forms on the table. And it's like it does
This
so good setting everything up.
well, that's another thing because not only does this movie have a good idea, but it was beautifully directed. The
Yes.
cinematography was great. There were some great transitions. There was like cool visuals. There were like
Mm-hmm.
funny gags in it.
Yeah.
Like not a lot of movies can pull this off. Like this is a good original movie.
And like the show is so fast paced, it doesn't give you like any time to breathe, especially in the beginning. And that is sort of like really good because it reflects how the people are feeling in their day to day life. And you got this craziness of them walking around like the what the laundromat that they own downstairs. And like the one guy's like the daughter's trying to talk to the mom about her relationship that's going on. Meanwhile, she's worrying about the tax forms upstairs, and a customer walks up to her and is like, "The machine ate my 20." And she's like, "What do you want me to do about it?" It's like, I'll repay you next time with interest. Like they're so desperate just for money now. Because
Yeah,
things are falling apart.
yeah, and you're right. Not only is it the first thing, it's so fast paced. Like it's almost like it almost reminded me of a Whitest Kids You Know sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen that comedy group? I
I
think
have
I've
not.
tried to show you them a few
You
times.
tried to show me
But a lot of
once.
their comedy just comes from like spouting dialogue at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's what this movie is a lot in the first like 30 minutes. It's just spouting dialogue. And there's great cinematography, and they're just talking back and forth, and like
Yep.
they never have time to breathe.
It's so much character development in that
Yeah,
time.
in the first, you get it. You get that the husband, he's trying to keep things together, but he needs a divorce. Like he's like,
You know,
apparently his brother, and then the wife calls him out. She's like, "Oh, you think just because your brother got
it's
a
like
divorce, it's a divorce is right for us?"
in the opening scenes, you see the husband looking longingly at an old couple who's like holding hands and kisses, and that's what he wants. And like he goes to try to like show affection to Evelyn, his wife, but she kind of just pushes him off.
Yeah,
And during the chaos of all this opening content, we're given one chance to breathe, which is it's even that one chance is not only is a chance to breathe, it's also a setup for later in the movie when she's distracted by the TV and she sees a dancer and she's dancing with a man, and it's just like she longingly wants that deep down inside, but she, there's so much coming on, which you hear going on in the background, which even though it's a moment to breathe, you still hear that chaos muffled in the background as it's playing. And then
yeah,
all of a sudden it snaps right out of it and you're thrown back into the chaos of the life.
and that's a big part of this movie. Is that it's one time the husband even says it? Is that she was such a failure in life that she's like literally, she came like, she achieved none of her goals, so she could have achieved any of her goals. Was essentially it.
Or all the
That's
failures in your life have led up to this moment. That
yeah,
was said by Chad Dad in the closet when he's telling her to focus.
right.
That is the second breath of fresh air we get.
Yeah, and
Um,
at that moment, that's when you kind of get the idea of what the movie's about. So, essentially, you can
she's
learn information and skills from other universes'
it's
versions
so
of you.
good because her reaction after hearing that goes from the stressed out chaos. She just smiles, She's not. She stops paying attention to the or to the IRS agent,
Who
and she
should have
just
died at the end
stops.
of the movie.
She
That's
just
my only
stops
complaint is that the IRS agent didn't
and
die.
smiles because she's happy to know that this life that she's unhappy with living has actually meant something, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it was. Another thing I noticed is that there were like almost no minor characters in this movie,
yeah,
or like there were minor characters, but all like small characters that are introduced at the beginning of the movie come back.
mhm.
So the
Its
security guards
supporting
come back.
cast. Its
The,
supporting
the
cast was very well used.
yeah, even if though they didn't have many lines, the security guards came back at the end of the movie, and so did the patrons at the laundromat.
Yeah,
And so did the IRS agent was like a big part of the movie.
and how they're shown across the different realities,
Oh yeah,
like with like I love how the sausage finger world, the IRS agent and Evelyn are in an active relationship.
yeah, they're lesbian, which is crazy to me to think that like you're telling me that in another universe, like as long as you had sausage fingers, that just makes you a lesbian.
No, I don't think. I think it was just it was two very unlikely variables lined up in that world, where the apes with floppy fingers killed all the ones that had stronger fingers, and somehow Evelyn fell in love with an IRS agent
That's so crazy to me.
because
Like I love my favorite line in the movie was "You're the worst version of you," and she's like, "That's not true. What about the hot dog fingers?"
yeah.
It's like you're happy in the hot dog fingers universe. It's like, am I? Am I really though?
Kind of getting
Uh,
back to the start of the movie to keep things in order. Um, Kind of like when they're in the laundromat, and then the guy, he, when the father first or grandfather first kind of steps through the door, and kind of like sees what up, and then Becky or no Evelyn is like, "Hey, like, you shouldn't be down here and all." But then, of course, the daughter keeps nagging his mom to introduce her and her girlfriend. But uh, Evelyn can't bring herself to do that, and she's like claiming under the guise that her Chinese or not Chinese English wasn't very well. She used a Chinese term, "good friend" instead of girlfriend, which Becky picked up on right away, and basically accused the mom of like, "Hey, your Chinese isn't or your English isn't that bad," and then um, she just storms off. Evelyn chased, and it's kind of like they have this moment where Evelyn knows what needs to be said, and she tries excusing it by saying, "It's different. He's in a different generation. Like, he wouldn't understand."
and
And
you know what? She uses her father's elderliness to hide like her own like embarrassment and confusion at her daughter's life choices. You know what I
no,
mean?
not at all.
I think that's
That's
exactly what she's doing.
no, because
I think that she's kind of she's embarrassed of her daughter because she's also kind of an old-fashioned Chinese woman. Like she got insulted at the idea of divorce. Not like I get divorce is hard, but
she
like
did, but she doesn't because she actually turns to her daughter Becky in that same scene and says, "You are lucky that you have such an understanding mother."
but she's not. She just thinks she's an understanding mother, though. She's not really an understanding mother.
I so the problem with Becky is that she's unable to confront things, or not Becky, Evelyn. She's unable to confront things very well. It's like why she wasn't paying attention very much to the IRS agent, and they had to use the excuse of she's getting, like tax write-offs and personal hobbies mixed up. But it's Evelyn and Becky at the car just have this stare off moment, big character moment, of where um, Evelyn just kind of says, "You need to eat healthier. You're gaining weight," which is a good setup and payoff to earlier when Becky told her girlfriend that her mom is nice, but she might call you fat.
Yeah, I did really
And
like
it
that scene.
shows
That was
that
funny.
it shows you care. But like Becky's response is just shock, not because the mother like isn't acknowledging it, but because it's like you fucked up and now you don't even want to go there. You know the conversation that should be had, but you're not having it with me right now. Like you're kind of avoiding again.
Eh, maybe. That's a solid maybe. I no, I because that's like a like if hmm, no, maybe you're right. Maybe I was wrong. No, I still think that she's still kind of hiding behind her father because she's
Mm-hmm.
confused at her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That hmm, interesting.
She doesn't know how to tackle the situation. She understands it, but she doesn't know how to handle the situation.
Well, yeah,
Is
that right. That
my
was definitely a
read.
thing.
Yeah. Um.
But it's one of those things where like the daughter is just like the mother. Like really, they are.
Yeah, they're very similar. Because the mother was just as rebellious, and like she even says that in the film that she was just like her daughter once, and that's one of the points that they bring up to try to connect to each other as people. You know, like the end.
Right.
Um. When they're in the elevator, the husband goes Chad mode, but he's like so the situation is so dire. He literally just grabs the divorce papers and he writes the instructions on the divorce papers and hands them to Evelyn. I thought that was funny. And he tells her like, "Oh yeah, you can go. You can choose to go onto your scheduled appointment or take a turn into the janitor's closet." Which then leads to the scene where they're talking to the IRS agent, which
Yeah.
had a
In the
very nice transition to the janitor's closet.
which another thing about the movie, it had a very nice randomness to it. It was a very orderly randomness,
Yeah.
which it doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense if you saw the movie actually. Uh,
What what I loved, and this wasn't randomness. This was more consistence. In every universe, the IRS agent always mispronounced Evelyn's last name. Instead of Wong, she always said Wang. Which I thought was you could have all these differences across several universes, but one constant was she would always mispronounce their last name.
that is funny. I didn't notice that.
I thought that was hilarious.
That is great attention to detail too. It just shows how much care was put into this movie.
It
I mean,
really is.
honestly,
Oh,
there was this. Like, you're right. There was this sort of Evelyn was always Evelyn. That was her name, right?
yes, Evelyn.
Evelyn. She even throughout the universes, there was something like, except for maybe the sausage finger one, which comes from an entirely different like evolutionary path.
Yes.
Evelyn was always Evelyn. She just like made different life decisions. So martial arts Evelyn stayed in China.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Now, I think, of course, like every universe you would draw on is going to be a version of you.
right.
Because it's like you're there's no situation that would lead you to pick like you couldn't pick another universe with a system that you weren't you with said skill because you are imagining yourself with X skill or X ability, then you have to do something that you wouldn't normally do, and then that odd action acts as like a slingshot that will connect you to that other universe. And so that's why it always seems to line up of the people are always the similar with minor differences. It's a really creative system because you have these infinite possibilities, but you will only ever really end up with the ones you imagine.
And yeah, and a lot of the things, maybe aside from sausage fingers, they were
Mhm.
places like where you could probably see any of us like making certain life decisions to get there.
Mhm.
Like Chef Evelyn was like just Chef Evelyn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like uh
The
and then there
Ratatouille reference in that from
yeah, there
Chef.
was and there was yeah, the raccoon on top of the guy's head. Martial
Yeah.
arts Evelyn, she stays in China, she becomes a movie star. I
Mhm.
mean, a very specific order of events, but it tracks. It like makes sense
Mhm.
in the world.
And
Um,
upon seeing those successes in other worlds, she stops and thinks about, like, hey, why did I marry this fool? Which makes her wonder about the divorce papers and all that and what she's even doing. But she gets shut down by the Chad dad when he's like, "Don't think about that. It won't bring you any good trying to think about the successes of other lives. What's holding you back?"
yeah, Chad Dad was awesome.
Mhm.
Uh, that's definitely a thing. Another thing is she ignores her husband for like the first good part of the movie. She basically does anyway.
Mhm.
Uh, and then at the end, it turns out that he's a good person who just wants everyone to be nice to each other.
Yeah,
That's what he says. He says, "Be nice, everyone. Be nice."
yeah, because all he wants in the movie is nice things with his wife and a good experience.
And at the end of the movie, she comes to appreciate her husband.
Yeah,
Uh, like, of course, that's how movies tend to end. Yeah, movies. That's how movies movies end with you coming to appreciate something you had before. But honestly, I was having a hard time seeing how she wasn't appreciating him from the beginning because he is awesome. Like even like the silly dad version of him from like universe default universe,
hmm
still pretty awesome.
I really enjoyed how this movie used its time to like get people to go places or like say what they are. Like one example of that would be when the after she beats up the IRS agent, she's like, well, she looks at her husband and she thinks the Chad guy's back, and she's like, well, can you explain this? And she holds up the divorce papers, but the note is pointed towards her that was written on them, or the directions. So she sees the directions, but the husband sees the divorce papers on the back, and so when he responds, he thinks that she's talking about the divorce papers that he sees, and Evelyn thinks he's responding to the note written on the back of the paper, which thankfully people are not that stupid. And they only use that moment to keep them there and solve it out after like a minute of some discussion, but gives enough time for security to get up and kind of, and then you get to introduce that whole funny ass fight scene. But it was a really good use of time to get these characters to stay up because, and it makes sense because the husband is there. He wants to fight for their relationship, and Evelyn just doesn't give a shit of what's going on with all this chaos that's happening. She'll just take whatever's in front of her almost. Actually, I won't say she doesn't give a shit. She just takes what's kind of in front of her. And then you get the really funny fight scene where he goes ham with his fanny pack.
Oh, oh my God, I love that. Like that was when this movie took a turn from pretty good to really good.
He eats the chapstick.
The okay, so we should explain, right? A part of this movie is that random acts almost work as a acceleration to other universe use.
It
So
acts
be
as like a propellant.
propellant, sure.
Because you
Yeah,
almost
propellant.
slingshot yourself off of the random action to the target universe that you were thinking of.
So, some of the acts were they were very creative in the movie writings.
Mm-hmm.
Eating chapstick,
Yes. Um,
um,
Sticking
confessing your
stuff up
love.
your butt. Yeah, sticking
Yeah,
something
there
up your
that was
butt.
another gag at the beginning of the movie when they met the IRS agent. She pointed to her rewards, and the trophies for best auditor in the IRS looked like
Ticks.
almost they looked like eggs. No, they didn't. That's not what it.
Phallical, phallic
Yeah,
objects.
yeah they looked like eggs that are meant to be put up your butt is essentially what they looked
Which
like.
is funny because it's like an best IRS agent award
Yes.
looks like a dick.
Yeah. Uh, and at the end, towards the end of the movie, one of the random acts that helped people get control of their kung fu side was sticking the rewards in your butt.
Yes.
And two people ended up doing this, and one of the scenes was very great where he flew through the air to do it.
Just landed on it.
Yeah.
And then they have a fight scene with the awards in their butts.
What was another thing breaking her finger? Did she break her finger at one point? Or am I wrong about
Maybe.
that?
I think so. Or no, it was like, oh no,
He paper cuts between his fingers is what it was.
yeah.
Oh,
The breaking your finger was like there's two things that Evelyn is like unlikely to do besides like X thing, and it was either profess your love to an IRS agent or break your own finger.
yeah, and there was a scene where the husband paper cuts between his fingers.
Oh my
Or I'm
god.
pretty sure it was the husband. It might have been Evelyn.
Yeah, no, it was the husband.
Oh, that was Ruth. Oh my god, I can't. A lot of things. I can watch a lot of things,
He needed to do it 5 times.
and he did it 4 times between every one of his fingers.
Oh my god, that was awful.
Yeah, it was too much. It was way too much. I couldn't handle it.
Just kind of
Made me
hopping
scream.
around. Same. One moment I really loved was back in the janitor's closet after the really cool cut of when Chad Dad is like the universe needs your help, and Evelyn just turns around and says, "I'm too busy." And then IRS agent just breaks through the door and strangles Chad Dad. And it's like, what the fuck? And it was at that moment I was like, what the absolute fuck is going on?
That was hilarious. You're right. Allow me to take a moment for a second.
Okay.
I only took 2 notes throughout the entire movie. You took much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
My first note was everything bagel equals sensory overload ?
Yes.
Now in the
Everything
movie,
bagels are too much.
she put everything on a bagel. Everything on a bagel. To create a singularity to kill herself. Essentially, that was the daughter from alternative universe, the bad guy. But my only thought about that was everything bagels are just a bit too much. You know what I mean? Like they have garlic. They have garlic, which is the best part. We all know that. But then they also have poppy seeds, which okay, good grips. But then they also have sesame seeds, which is like, I mean, maybe sesame seeds, and then they have more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you need more stuff? Like the garlic is what everyone buys them for. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no scenario in which we say everything bagel no garlic and people are like, "Ooh, that sounds better." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other note I took was a question that the movie answered. Does adventure make you long for banality? And the movie says yes. Like a grass is always green on the other side thing.
Mm.
And at the end of the movie, Evelyn learns to appreciate what she has.
Yep.
Because although she doesn't have this flashy, glamorous lifestyle, her life is good. And she learns to appreciate her husband, and appreciate her daughter, and appreciate her father.
Yeah. Kind of like on, character stuff, just like that. What I got from it, the daughter in this movie is only looking for understanding from her mother. And so it kind of boils down the whole message of the movie, that from what I got, was appreciate your time with those around you, because insert this line, which I believe was the climax of the entire movie. It was the husband when he said to Evelyn, "In another life, I would have loved to just do laundry and taxes with you."
Did he say that when he was the when she was the movie star?
No, he said it near the end when
Yeah,
she was when she
but
was
did
like
he?
dying, I think.
Wait, who said that?
That was a husband.
Yeah, the husband said that.
Maybe,
I
maybe it
thought he
was maybe
I
it
thought he
was the
said
movie
that
star.
as the movie star when she tried to kiss him, and he said, "Is this
Oh
really what you
yeah,
want? In another life, I would have just loved to do lawn." And he said it in
yeah.
Chinese.
Oh yeah, that's yep. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, which is great because you got to see like in another life they were separated. She stayed in China. He came
Mhm,
back to China. She's a movie star, and she's excited to see him. You get this really cool moment when he's like James Bond on the top of the
mhm.
thing, and she's being trained by this
And
amazing martial artist lady.
that line encapsulates his entire character that we've been shown so far because in between all these action scenes, we've gotten little blurbs of Chad Dad or husband trying to just talk to Evelyn. He's
She
trying to
never gives him the
figure
time of
out
day. She never gives him the time of day, which is really sad throughout the movie. But
because
she
so
comes
much
around.
is going on from her perspective. When you're watching his perspective, we try to like sit back and kind of look at it from his perspective. He's just following her, trying to be like, "What the fuck is going on? Talk to me, Evelyn." He wants like communication, and even though he cannot understand and what's going on, and she certainly is too busy to stop and just talk to him. But it's like you kind of see that really nice dynamic, the two characters sticking in character through the whole fucking movie. Really good. Really good stuff. It's again, my favorite movies are always the ones that build their characters and stick to them the best.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously that's like a necessary building block for movies. I
Yeah.
would say it'd be silly if you said you liked movies that didn't do that. Uh, I like movies that are good movies. I don't know.
Because
What else do you want to get into? You want to just do final thoughts with the movie? You want to do rating? Because we kind of gone on for a
I,
while.
I got a little bit
You got a
more to
lot
go.
more. All
Not
right.
too much
What
more,
else you got?
but I'm building up how I love character development in movies. My
Oh
second,
my god. I mean, the thing about the character development is that the characters almost don't really change except they appreciate what they have around them
yeah,
and they learn to communicate with each other,
it's
which is
still
actually a
learning.
better form of character development. Like they are not like they don't go from
Yeah,
I'm a bad person to I'm a good person. They go to I'm insulated from my loved ones to
mhm.
now I understand my loved ones.
So my main two criterias I judge movies off of is its character, and then its world building or general plot structure, and how sensical it comes together in general continuity, or and how well it stays true to itself. But, and even though this world doesn't make too much sense, it does such a good job just sticking to its guns and being like, we are telling this story with these crazy rules, and we're going to be creative with these crazy rules we're putting in, and we're going to keep shocking the viewer with it while developing such these good characters. I don't even care if it didn't make sense or continuity or stuff like that,
Yeah,
because
it's an
there's
idea
so
that
much more to enjoy.
it's an idea that breaks down the longer you think about it. But
Yeah,
honestly, I don't care. It was such a good movie.
yeah, because you don't need continuity or world building to make a movie great. I
Unless they're
think,
gonna do an Everything Everywhere All at Once movie franchise.
like, that's something needed for like Star Wars or maybe something like Lord of the Rings, where you can judge those movies by their continuity
Hey, you know
and
what this
how
movie
well
makes
they
me
build
think?
worlds.
I've always like instead of doing sequel movies, they should just make like a 2-season sitcom after every big popular movie. Like that like acknowledges the events of the last movie, but like doesn't really it's
See,
not a movie like about like hopping universes. It's just now a sitcom that stars these characters that happen to have just had this wild adventure where they hop universes.
Unfortunately, sequels are a safe option for corporations to go about because people eat them up and enjoy them. So original ideas are risky and don't always sell, but sequels, you can ride the fame wagon of another franchise and soak every ounce of honesty and the character
Okay, we
and
get it. You don't like
people
sequels.
love that. No, I love sequels. They just have to be done right.
Well,
Sequels are a very dangerous line to ride.
well, the problem is there's continuation sequels, but then there's like, and then there's like next generation sequels. So like in the same universe,
Mm-hmm.
but like just like later. So Star Wars sequel trilogy, next generation sequel. But
Mm-hmm.
Empire Strikes Back, the third greatest movie in all of existence. Uh, that's a continuation. But then there's also movies that are meant to be a set. So like Lord of the Rings, it's almost not good to call them one like different movies. It's almost like volume one, you know? Because like if a
Mm-hmm.
book has volumes, then it's technically the same book, just broken up into volumes for easy consumption. And that's almost what Lord of the Rings movie
Yep.
trilogy is.
Yes.
So it's all the same movie, but it's broken up. Whereas Star Wars was meant to be a single movie, and then they added
Mm-hmm.
a sequel to it.
Yep. And with Star Wars, generally you can get away with it because you look at like episodes 5 and 6. It's like you had this really good idea, and they were expanding on the idea for episodes 5 and 6. Kind of like with Pirates of the Caribbean. The first one was a standalone movie, but episodes 2 and 3, those came out. They were going to expand the story. We're going to like kind of take what we got, and we're going to almost add to it, build off of it. So we have this nice thing without changing anything really,
Yeah, and I
and
think
it's
it's
just
easier
more
to
to
do in.
enjoy.
I think it's easier to do in
It's
uh,
not as good, but it's
in
still good.
built worlds. Like so it's easier to make a sequel movie in a fantasy world than it is in like a grounded world. Just because a fantasy world, if it's a well-built world, you can just explore more of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like the second and third Pirates movies explores Davy Jones as a character.
Yes.
Uh,
And
ra-
the British. And the
yeah,
British more.
yeah, and then like
Also more
Star
pirate
Wars
factions.
explores the Empire as like an entity.
Yep. And other worlds that they get to travel to. And
Yes.
they gets to build more on like the Empire, the Emperor, and Darth Vader.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you get
then Luke
Hoth in
also
The Empire
gets
Strikes Back,
to go on additional character journeys while developing all these other characters.
and he kisses his sister.
Yeah, and then they have incest, and you know.
No, that's not what. That's not. Okay. I don't think that happened, but okay.
So, kind of, I didn't get to exactly finish my thoughts
On.
entirely on everything on the final thoughts.
Yeah.
So, the daughter's just looking for understanding.
Hmm.
So appreciate your time and those around you because in another life I would have loved to just do laundry and taxes. But and the great this is a great character moment that is really focused on its central cores and or its central and core themes that it kind of goes around and it explores kind of like the concept of just enjoying the people that you have around you because they are what gives meaning and purpose to life. And this is reinforced by the final scene where Evelyn does stand up for her daughter's sexuality to the father. And the exact same
Yeah,
thing
but
happens. Because at the end of the day, it had nothing to do with what the mother thought or agreed with the or about the sexuality of the daughter. The disappointment came from the complete disconnect and the lack of the relationship between the mother and the daughter. And that is so it's really cool to see the story go back and explore that and you get to see it through the different lens, you get to see it for what it really is and it's I think it's genius.
yeah, I agree. Um, it does come full circle. This movie. That's what's great about it.
Mm-hmm.
It ends exactly where it started, which, every movie you can kind of assume like hero's journey, they make it back to their village eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But this world bounces around so much and then firmly plants itself right ending the original meeting your daughter's girlfriend moment.
Yeah.
And that is wonderful. And it just makes the movie feel so complete. It brings everything full stop. And then at the end of the movie, you get a little bit like, okay, mother
It,
saved daughter, but
it
she.
had nothing to do with the daughter's sexuality. It was about the complete disconnect in their
Mother saves
relationship.
daughter. Daughter realized that she wasn't a lesbian after all. How how the movie should have ended. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm joking, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you didn't realize,
Yeah.
it's Pride Month. I would never disrespect the gays. Pride Month. Uh, and it just I don't know. At the end of the movie, I was so sleepy, but I was like, man, this is such like it was so late, but we almost considered doing the podcast that night. I think we actually originally planned to do the podcast that night, but
Yeah, we
it just
originally
went on.
did.
It went on forever. But at the end of it, I was like, at this time, I would normally be in bed, but I want to talk about it right now because it was that good. It's that kind of movie, and I like everyone should watch it.
Yeah. Oh, it is a really good movie.
Any other thoughts?
One of my favorite movies, probably my favorite movie to come out this decade. And I feel like it likely will make my top 10 films at the end of the decade.
I think it, and I think it's probably like my list of top 50 movies of all time is pretty bare because I don't count The Godfather as like a top movie or movies like The Godfather because they're boring. And even though they're like masterful pieces of film work, you have to at least be somewhat entertaining for me.
I think Godfather is really entertaining, at least the first one.
It's
Movies like
somewhat
Citizen Kane are boring.
well that's my problem with like top 50 movies of all time because like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly has a great story to tell,
Mhm.
but it's 3.5 hours long or whatever, however long it is.
Yeah.
And even though I love bits of the movie, it doesn't have this like awesome keep you on the edge of your seat thing.
Hmm.
Like if I was like watching it when it first came out, I would not have been able to finish it without Netflix deposit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say, I definitely think that standard movie critics overrate some older films.
We should watch Gone with the Wind, by the way, sometime soon
I think
because
I have seen that. It's been a few years though.
it's supposedly the greatest movie of all time. Like inflation
Really?
adjusted, it beats out Endgame by a lot
Oh, I
for
don't think
movie
Endgame
grossings.
was very good.
I don't know. Oh, I don't like Endgame, but I'm talking about grossing, like box
Oh,
office
okay.
earnings, because
Okay.
eh,
We should
they
definitely check it out.
yeah, and it's a movie about the Civil War. It's kind of a rom com. Or not, it's not a com. It's a rom. Uh, yeah, and it's supposedly the greatest movie of all time. And I wonder how it stands up. It's just what I've always wanted to watch. But
Mhm.
yeah,
I've wanted to show you Whiplash.
dude, it's isn't that the music movie?
It is.
Dude, I don't want to watch the music movie.
You sure?
Yeah,
It's not entirely about music.
it's drama though, isn't it?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's it's a good. It's really good though.
My problem with dramas is that they cut out they kind of cut out the I don't think movies necessarily need to have like big flashy fight scenes, but I'm not interested in characters in a 2-hour movie. I'm interested in characters in a 20 episode TV show, sure, but a 2-hour movie just can't get me invested
Hmm.
in these characters. So if it's a character driven movie that has like no fights and no conflicts in it, it needs to be a comedy for it to be worth my time.
Oh, there's so much conflict in Whiplash.
There's like sword fights,
No, there's not sword fights,
exactly.
but there's a teacher throwing drum sets at students.
Yeah, but that's not like that's not like a conflict, like a a fight, like a situation. What he says like, "Oh, you're retarded. You didn't take the notes," and secretly the guy's pushing him to be the best musician of all time or whatever.
No,
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
it's
Secretly, they're what do you call the guy that teaches music or conduct? He's a conductor. He's
yeah,
a composer,
yeah.
and secretly he's grooming you to being a good.
Yes, he's not secretly. He's outwardly trying to push this kid that he sees greatness in because he sees himself. And he doesn't want the kid to fall flat, but this kid is driven and he wants to be the best, and it's about the lengths of which he will go to be the best.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna watch it.
Okay.
You know, I would. It's not that. It's just that like eventually sometimes I can see where movies are going and it puts me off of them. Like I was about to watch. Like my brother was like, "You need to watch Red Notice." You know what Red Notice is?
No,
The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, sexiest
that's
man
why.
alive, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. Very famous actors. You know, very famous cast.
Yes.
And I didn't watch the movie, but he was like, "Oh, it's a good movie. You gotta watch it." And I was like, "Let me guess how it ends." There's like 7 different double crosses. It turns out at least one of them's working for the feds, and then by the end of the movie, they all start working together. Like, yeah, because that's how those movies end,
Well,
right?
how do you
There's,
think Whiplash ends?
I don't know, I don't know. I can't do dramas. They're too much. I mean, unless I can do I can always predict who the killer is in who done it movies by like the first half hour. Uh, although Knives Out kind of threw me off because it was too obvious.
Knives Out was an awful movie.
Oh, I kind of liked it, except, but like obviously by the first 15 minutes, I was like, he didn't really, he wasn't really, uh, he he wasn't murdered. He committed suicide, and then it was she was like, oh, I switched the medications, and then I was like, well, it's a mystery movie, which means someone switched them and she switched them back, so she didn't kill him in the first place, so his death was unnecessary. And by the end of the movie, it was like, yeah, yeah, Chris, what's this, Chris,
I'll send you a clip from Whiplash. You
let me
watch it
see.
and then you tell me at least what you think about it. You don't have to right now, but
I but with action movies, it's always so obvious, and then with whodunit movies, it's always so obvious. I like whodunit movies anyway, though, because I can still be
Mhm.
tricked. Like Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, I got. Uh,
Mhm. You there?
but well, yeah, it's because they were great movies and they set up who did it really well. But
Mhm.
because they set up who did it really well, you can tell. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Whiplash 2014. I feel like I've seen this clip before.
Yeah,
I
it's famous.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to get the tempo and he's like, no, you got it wrong, but it actually turns out he was perfect.
I wouldn't say that he was perfect. Well, one of my favorite parts about this is like the actual drumming that they use in it,
Yeah.
and like at least the beat that like he's trying to put like I forget what it's called, but at least what he's trying to build him up to be able to do in the is very difficult as a drummer to come and to accomplish, and it makes the ending all the better. The ending of the movie.
All right. If you promise me it's that good, then I'll find it sometime. I'll like keep it on my radar. All right, but I'm not gonna actively seek it out.
Okay, yeah, I
Uh,
think it's one of my favorite. I think I had this as my favorite movie of last decade.
really?
Yeah, dude, this
I
was
can't.
my
I don't
favorite
know my
movie.
favorite movie of the last decade, honestly, because all my favorite movies are like kind of older.
Yeah,
By the
so
way, do you have a
from
top 10 list of your
2010.
favorite movies yet?
No, I don't. But
You should make
this
one up.
would be
We should go
up
over it
in there.
next week because I
Okay.
have a top 10 list of my favorite movies, and we should compare and contrast
I think that they're
because
going to be very different, though.
I
So,
think we're gonna have at least some of the same movies.
yeah, probably.
Like I can't imagine Return of the King or at least Fellowship,
Yeah.
probably for you. And then Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. Maybe not
Yeah.
on your top 10, but you definitely.
It, I think the Star Wars movies would be in, like, honorable mentions.
Mm.
Because
Um,
for my top 10, I would go to, like, maybe some of, like, the Lord of the Rings movies. I would go to definitely to, like, Whiplash, The Father, maybe Schindler's List, and Shawshank. At
Ooh,
least those
Shawshank.
two.
Is Shawshank on my list? Because I might have to knock something off to put Shawshank on it. Because I love Shawshank. Anyway,
Yeah.
what do you rank the movie? Because we got on this tangent.
I'd give it like 8.5.
You, I was gonna give it a 9.
Oof. I don't
I
even
mean,
think I don't even
my
think I've given Lord of the Rings a 9.
well, for my Lord of the Ring gets a 9 for me, but but also you have to remember that my rating system is top weighted compared to yours because I think that movies get
Mine's like a
worse and they
bell
get better.
curve. Mine's kind of like very bell curve-ish. It's
Well,
harder to get to
mine.
both extremes.
I disagree. It's so easy to make a horrible movie.
It is.
Like I'll send you a picture of my big toe right now, and I'll be like, one of the worst movies of all time, right? 0 minute run time, nothing happens, characters ill defined. It's be like, and then there are like snuff films, right? And then there are like home movies. Like it's so much easier to make a bad movie than it is to make a good movie.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, 9 or 8.5 and a 9. I was gonna go above a 9, but I think that's just because I just watched it and I really like movies that I just
Mhm.
watched. So I think a 9 is like a good solid place. Maybe it'll go down to like an 8.75, but
I
I can't
think
imagine it.
I think Everything Everywhere All at Once could definitely be in my top 10 of all time, favorite of all time.
I think that's just because you watched it more recently, like, and then you
No,
still
I
have that first
genuinely
time.
think it wouldn't be like maybe like 1, 2, or 3, but it could definitely take like a sixth or seventh spot.
I don't. It was a very creative movie, so I think you're right. It might be in my top 20 of all time, but it would just
Mhm.
be like barely in there.
Mhm.
Because there are movies that I just don't have. Like I don't have Tombstone on my top 10 list, and that's a good movie. I don't have. I don't think I have Shawshank.
I might have a couple movies that you have definitely not seen.
Yeah,
Just like
I
you'll have some I haven't.
probably. And then my top 10 list is basically uh, storytelling is one of the greatest ones, but also it has to be actively entertaining. So if you can tell a good story and entertain like a lot, like
Hmm.
if Whiplash comes on the TV at noon on a Friday afternoon, are you gonna watch it?
No, because I already watch it. I've already watched it like several times.
Right,
Just
but but
for
like but like if
if there was somebody with me who hadn't seen it, I would rewatch it.
yeah, but there are movies that I will watch all the time, no matter what.
Lord of the Rings and Whiplash are two of those movies for me.
I love Lord of the Rings, but you got like Lord of the Rings is special. You gotta have time for Lord of the Rings.
I make time for Lord of the Rings. That's our
That's fair.
difference.
That's fair. Like, uh, God, like if Mulan was on the TV, I would stop and watch it because it's a great movie.
Hmm.
Like stuff like that, you know. If Scrooge the musical was on the TV, okay, that one's biased, all right, because that's like my
Hmm.
nostalgia movie from my kidhood, my childhood. But if Scrooge the musical was on my TV, I'd totally watch it, like all year round.
Hmm. Now,
But
for next week, are we doing like top 10 favorite movies? Or is it going to be like what we think are the best? Is it going to be like more subjective or like try to be more objective?
well, I think all my opinions are objectively true anyway.
Because those two lists would look very different
Yeah,
for me.
there would definitely be things that I would knock off my top 10 list if I was trying to do for like totally objective. But try to do a mix. Like best, well, obviously your do subjective because
Okay.
obviously movies that you think are the best have something going for them that movies that maybe other people think are the best but you don't do. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's the point
Yeah.
of these lists. But the reason your opinions are your opinions is because you think they're right or you
Hmm.
think they're at least true in a way that
Well,
other opinions aren't true.
I have always also I have acknowledged in at least the past my bias in how I do rate films, like I did today, around like your general plot, story, and characters.
That's not
I
bias though. That's like formatting.
well, yeah, I value those way more than like maybe acting, cinematography, or like music or costume design.
No,
Like
right,
they're
and I definitely have a lot of cinematography bias to mine, but actually a lot of my top 10 movies aren't that gorgeous to watch
mhm,
like everything is like All at Once is, you know what I mean? Because All at Once is a wonderfully shot movie, whereas some of my top like even Empire Strikes Back, I think it has some good directing, but I don't think it's like it wows me to watch.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, I think if that's it, unless you have anything else to say,
No, I don't. We've been going
uh,
on for a fair amount of time.
we
Hour and a
have
half.
been going on for an hour and a
Almost
half.
an hour and a half. Almost.
Uh, Aurora, Torn of the Myriad, D&D campaign. Uh, my channel, probably in the description. I don't know.
hmm
You also
Um,
do things, mostly Celtic heroes, apparently.
I am actually planning on a new Celtic Hero series right now with a couple
There you go.
friends.
There you go, boy. And send your viewers this way. And my way.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, so I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that's good. And
Hey, and remember, kids, eat your vegetables. Or Jesus said your grandmother would die.
pray to Jesus so he won't kill your grandmother in case you don't eat your vegetables.
Oh, country song name. I had this. Did I send this to you as a note to yourself? Don't Be
Yes, you
Gay
did.
USA. My country song name.
Yeah.
I was think we were. I was just in the car and I heard a country artist on the radio saying he wrote his new album to be totally like gender neutral in honor of Pride Month. And I was like, "You're a country artist. Who do you think your audience is?" And I was like, "If I'm ever a famous country artist, I will literally write a song. Don't Be Gay USA."
Anyway, I hope everyone
I feel like
enjoyed
it'll
this
really get the
episode,
base going. Yeah.
and we'll see you all next week.